Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Thorne Solomon Scott selections here for Saturday, September 2nd. For again today's play of the day. Quick recap what happened yesterday. We had a nice winner in tennis with Gojo, -1.5 sets and -145 on Bet Online. Really never in doubt, won in straight sets. In fact, Gojo did not face a break point in the entire match. I mentioned how Vesely would have been exhausted, or was going to be exhausted after having back-to-back five-setters, and he was. He had nothing left in the tank, and Gojo won easily. So nice winner. Look for the winner here on Saturday. However, was not really a big fan of the U.S. Open card here for Saturday, so we're going to transition over to a sport we have not covered in a while. MMA. There's an afternoon card taking place in Paris, and it's going to be UFC Fight Night 226. And for this one, going to look at a prelim fight. Going to go with the Loosa and Mckee fight over 2.5 rounds at -136 on FanDuel. Time recording of 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Covering why we're going to go with the over 2.5 rounds in this fight. First reason, shopping around -136 is a pretty generous line. Most books have -145. I saw BetMGM had -150. So you're saving 14 cents basically by shopping around, which I'll do every time. But Loosa has been involved in 12 career fights, and he's had a very good chin in all those fights. In fact, he's never been stopped. So Loosa, as a result, has been involved in a lot of decisions recently, and I think it should follow a similar script here on Saturday. Each of Loosa's last 6 fights have gone to decision. And a reminder, this is only a 3-round fight, so I do think you're looking at what should likely follow the same script, where Loosa is able to do some damage, but not enough to finish the opponent, and he's also able to absorb enough damage where he doesn't actually get knocked out. But I do think, once again, when you get a guy who's had 6 straight decisions, the decision prop, or I should say the over for rounds in this fight, does look pretty appealing. But to look at Mckee's overall chin and his durability over the last couple of years, Mckee's only been stopped one time in his last 12 fights, and it was a pretty reasonable one where he ended up getting stopped because it was against Chimaev, and we know how good Chimaev is, one of the best UFC fighters in the entire company. Hasn't fought in a while, but still, we know how good he can be, so I'm not going to fully roast Mckee for losing that one. Pretty understandable. But once again, if you ignore Chimaev, it's 11 straight fights that he has not been stopped in, so he has had a good chin as well. And Loosa going to decision all the time suggests that he doesn't exactly have many power shots that can fully flatten opponents. And I think as a result, you'll end up seeing a pretty long stand-up battle between these two fighters. But Mckee is also making his UFC return after having 3 fights in Cage Warriors. I mentioned a second ago he lost to Chimaev in 2020. He also lost to Morono in a decision. Pretty decent fighter as well. Then went to Cage Warriors, and he won 3 straight fights. Now, he won all 3 by knockout. However, they did go pretty long. Each of Mckee's last 4 fights, including the last fight in the UFC against Morono, did enter the 3rd round, and 3 of Mckee's last 4 fights have gone over the 2.5 rounds. Now, a reminder, Cage Warriors is definitely a couple levels below in terms of competition compared to the UFC. So with the late stoppages against weaker opponents, I do question if Mckee has the actual power to get the job done early in this fight. And I think as a result, you're going to see this fight go over in what should be a long fight once again. But you're looking at Mckee's overall career, and he has a decent amount of stoppages because he has 10 of his 13 wins are by knockout. The other 3 are actually by submission. But once again, none of them are in the UFC. Every single win he has by stoppage was in Cage Warriors and something called BAMMA, which I don't really know what that stands for. But once again, inferior competition is a big reason for that. But the 2 fights he had in the UFC, I know Chimaev you can kind of toss out. Morono's good, but that went to a decision. I think you're looking at what should be a long fight. I'm going to have faith in Loosa's chin to hold once again, because it has in his entire career. And I think you're probably going to end up seeing the fight go the distance. However, once again, with Mckee's late heroics, I'm going to play it safer and take the over 2.5 rounds, because if Mckee does get a late stoppage in the final 2.5 minutes of the 3rd round, we still win. So if you want to take decision, you can. I think it probably will go there, but I'm going to play it safer and take the round. So once again, the play of the day is going to be Loosa and Mckee over 2.5 rounds at -136 on FanDuel. Bye, everyone.